Trust Your Struggle is a place of inspiration. We have these conversations with individuals about the monumental struggles that they've had in their life, what they've done to overcome them, how these struggles and what they've done have kind of helped define who they are today. Catching up with designer and founder of Crop Conference, Matt Dawson shares his story about getting burned out by doing his own thing the past 5 years. That lifestyle was literally killing him, and he had to make the decision to do what's best for him. He drops some knowledge about valuing yourself, figuring out what you don't like so you can figure out what you do like, and don't let things you're seeing from other people make you feel bad about where you are in your career. Life is so much about focus and perspective. Hope you enjoy our conversation.
I'm Matt Dawson. I'm, by all definitions, I think I'm just a general graphic designer. I lean more toward the branding and identity side, but I like to try to do as much stuff as possible to keep myself sharp and well-rounded. I've been practicing for about 15 years now, which I said recently, and it really kind of threw me for a loop because I was like, holy shit, that's like 15 is almost 20. You know, I'm like, oh, like have you really been doing this for almost 20 years? Like, are you where you need to be after doing it for so long? And like just that number kind of like crept into like my anxiety portion of my brain and made me be like, whoa. But yeah, like I've been doing it for 15 years. I still love it. I've got my struggles that we all do, but I'm still very passionate about it and feel fortunate to be in an industry in which I do genuinely love what I'm doing for the most part every day. I live in Austin, Texas, which is a fantastic city when it's open to the public and all the amazing things that it has to offer. So I'm super stoked for whenever that happens again. And I'm also the founder of the Crop Conference, which is how you and I met.
Yep.
So we put on, oh man, I think we've put on 7 in the last 5 years. We were supposed to have our 5th year anniversary this past April, and that's a huge labor of love and like a big part of my life. Event planning is like really probably second to design as far as like what I enjoy doing. But yeah, that's kind of my professional quote unquote professional elevator pitch of who I am, I guess, in the design
makes that
sense.
bread.
Yeah.
So for anyone who has it might be new, like can you explain a little bit about Crop and what that's all about?
Yeah, so Crop,
and also what got you started too. Sorry, like what where that came from.
So Crop is it's a boutique creative conference. We do 2 events a year. We do a main event in the spring, which we bring in about 300 to 400 people. And then we do a smaller satellite event that travels around the country in the fall. And that's a little bit smaller footprint, a little bit more intimate setting. But you know, as far as the programming, it's workshops, keynotes, parties, an excuse for people to come and hang out, an excuse for Instagram and dribble friends to actually meet in person for sometimes the first time ever. So you know, it's for me. I really miss it this year. For me, like it's a big release, you know, because it's inspirational, but it's also, you know, it's also the celebration of what we do. So, you know, like we spend so many hours like tied to our keyboards and mouses, mice whenever we're talking about, I don't know. But you know, like it's a big celebration and like kind of like an awesome reminder of like what it is that we do and how many other amazing people are doing it super well. And I love it. It's been a huge part of my life for like I said 5 years now. But it started me doing smaller talks myself at smaller events. Maybe I was just like in like a really dark corner of the world where like I didn't know other things like this existed, and there are other ones, and they're great and they're fun to attend. But for me, I'd never been to a conference. But I had spoken at universities internal like corporate companies to talk about like typography. And in that I was just like, oh, this is super fun. Like what if this like what if this were on a broader scale, in this region, and brought in all these people. Like most good ideas, they're already taken. So trying to put your own spin on it is a kind of a rule that I live by in most things, like especially design wise. Seeing an idea that you can take and put your personality on it, and your I don't know, just your touch, and that's kind of what we've done with Crop. And like we've kind of garnered a really close knit audience, and people that seem really appreciative that Crop is like welcoming of everybody, of all walks of life, all skill sets. We're we're very much the conference that it's like the kids under the bleachers versus the kids at the pep rally. And like, not that
Yeah, for
there's
sure.
anything wrong. Like we welcome the kids at the pep rally too, but like we're a little bit more punk rock in our approach to speakers being able to say and talk about anything they want. Like we don't want to filter them. We want to bring genuine and authentic experiences and stories to people. And sometimes that results in like profanity laden, or like opinion laden talks. But like that's great because it inspires and incites conversations and like new thinking for people. And it it kind of eases people that like might be in the crowd, that like feel like okay, I can let my guard down a little bit. These are just people that listen to everything. And it's great, man. So like I feel fortunate that we carved that niche out for ourselves, because like that's one of the most rewarding things I hear from people, is like how at home they feel at our events, like even if it's their first time. Like you've been to a handful, right? Have you been to
Right. Yeah.
three or two?
I've been to two, Portland and San Diego for the pop up. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was really great. Like how I kind of my experience from it and like my perspective is that it's very humanizing, for one, go in there, and then it's kind of like going to see, especially with the speakers that you've had, it's like going to see your favorite band play at like a small venue. It's like
Yeah.
they got the merch table. It's a small venue, and the band's hanging out afterwards, and you get to hang out with the
Yeah.
band, and that's a very very similar way that Crop is everyone's there hanging out all weekend long, and you're able to talk to people, and they're not like sitting behind a table just signing autographs and you just keep moving on. It's like you do have a
Totally.
name at that point, and it's a really great experience to have that.
Yeah, no, that's good to hear, man. You're not the first person to say that either. Like we encourage like our speakers to come to like the after parties. And like you might be waiting in line for like a drink or food, and you're right next to somebody that was just on the stage a few hours ago.
Right.
And instead of them being like whisked away to like a VIP dinner or something, like so I'm glad to hear that. I appreciate hearing that from you.
Yeah, it definitely makes it a lot different. So, wow, that's crazy that it's been going on for that long too, right? Like you think, hey, that's nuts.
Yeah, man. Like
A
five
long way.
five years 5 years is a long time. Missing the April one was definitely like a huge disappointment. And consequently, we're not doing a pop up this year either. So, like going like a full calendar year of like
Yeah, that's
remote creative events is it's disappointing on multiple levels. But like I think, shifting my perspective on that, and just like, you know, looking at the bright side, that like when it does happen, it's just going to be that much better, and like that much more, exciting. Like people are going to have pent up, like need for socializing. And yeah, so when it happens, it'll be
yeah.
great.
It's going to, yeah. I mean, I'm sure those pre-sale, anyone getting tickets, dude, it's probably going to sell out really, really fast, just because
Yeah.
of that fact. People want to get out and do stuff, and I'm sure, like right now, that's even. I know this whole thing's about like your struggle, and I think that not having that happen this year is a pretty major struggle, not only for yourself but also for the community.
It is. Well, like the crop is always it's always rewarding, but it's definitely not without its hurdles. event planning has so many different moving parts and so many things that can go wrong behind the scenes that nobody notices, but like you notice, so you're freaking out. You're like, oh shit, like this hasn't happened yet, or this person isn't responding. They go on stage in like 10 minutes, like, uh, or like this vendor dropped out, or so like the things that can happen during an event, like that's one hurdle. Like the stuff we've experienced this year is just like on a different level. Like uh our fifth anniversary was supposed to be a cruise in the Bahamas, but then right in the middle of promoting and like putting all that stuff out into the world and encouraging people, hey, come on this cruise with us, the Bahamas had that huge catastrophic hurricane.
Yeah.
So like that kind of put us in a position to uh, sympathize with what was going on and be like, well, we don't want to push people to this destination conference while everything in the destination's world is in utter chaos.
Yeah.
So we're like, all right, like that's one, like it's just not it's just not our bag to be like, hey, I know shit's really bad over here, but in the spring it's going to be awesome. So come on this cruise with us.
Right.
So like we put up like donations and like different partners where like we could help with relief efforts for that, and like we shifted our focus from being a big party at sea to like a more localized thing here in Austin. And like that felt good. It felt nice to feel like we were doing the right thing. It was well received, and Austin sold out, and it was great. And then COVID happened, so it was like two events that were just like, okay, well, uh, all right, third time's the charm, and we're just
Nope.
not exactly sure when that third time's going to be. So like we had very interesting cards stacked against us for this event. Like had I known back whenever we were hanging out in November that San Diego might be like the last crop we'll have for a while, like
Right.
and I never would have guessed that. Because like we plan the like as soon as we're done with one, we're planning the other. Like it's very cyclical, and it's a constantly turning machine. So for it to completely, to have two big hiccups, essentially canceling two huge ass events is it's like we're just at the point now where it's like throw your hands up, like
Right.
shrug emoji, and you're just like, all right, well, we're just not going to plan anything for a minute. We're gonna see how all this plays out, and then get back to it. But
That's
it's definitely
smart.
different
Yeah.
curveballs from what we're used to.
Yeah, for sure. Totally off subject, dude, but that is a sweet ass fender behind you.
Thanks, man. It's
That's beautiful.
dude, I love it, man. It's like the exact guitar that I've wanted for a really long time. I'm a huge Dinosaur Jr. fan, and
Nice.
Jay Mascis came out with a signature Jazzmaster. But I wanted little different upgrades, so I bought this guitar in pieces. Like I bought like the body first, and like I found some pickups, and then I found like a neck, and pretty much put it together all from scratch, which is great. So it's kind of like
Ah,
a
cool.
like a Frankenstein Jazzmaster, but it's the exact one that like I wanted for a long ass time. So thanks.
That's badass. Is that the first time you've assembled your own or put together your own guitar?
It is. It's the very first time I've assembled one. It was kind of nerve wracking because like I'm a classic over tightener of screws. Like if I'm building something shitty in my garage, like or like putting together IKEA furniture or something. So like I was very delicate and like nervous about putting this together, especially like putting the tuners in and But yeah, it came out great, dude. Like I love it. None of my other guitars get any attention anymore, so
Of course
I've got
not.
to I've got to spread the love, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. That's cool. You still play though, right? You used to be in bands, right?
Yeah, back in the day, for a long time, and we had started. Me and my best friend. We were in bands together for like 10 years, and like we both live in Austin now, trying to go dust off like some of the new ideas and stuff that we were working on. But yeah, hopefully we'll have something to release here soon in general, because like all that work is done. It was done last winter, so.
Oh wow.
It's kind of nice to be back in that world, like a little bit different world of creating than like what what I'm used to with like a keyboard and a mouse. It's
Right.
but it's funny the way I approach music now after after designing for so many years and then getting back into music afterwards. It's like I approach songwriting the same way I do like crafting like a big expansive brand, you know, like just like cohesion and like consistency and like familiarity. Like it's funny like the visual things that I apply to like songwriting now. It's like I didn't think that way whenever I was young because I wasn't a
Oh,
very good
right.
songwriter and I wasn't a very good designer. So like things were just like whatever. But now that I've grown at each, it's nice seeing like the parallels that they can each have.
Yeah, it's a little less punk rock now.
Yeah, a little more thought
Right.
out.
That's cool. Wow,
Um,
I never thought about that though. That process, with just create design and then music. Right. That's cool.
yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah. We'll see if it works
That's
or
right.
not.
Well, I look forward to checking it out, man, when it's done. So, one of the
Awesome.
things I want to touch on was that struggle, dude. Like that point of struggle, and kind of what that was for you in your time of your life. What was that?
Yeah, man, like struggle is unfortunately not one of those singular things that we experience in our life. Like uh, it's a consistent thing, and I think it happens at all points in our career, and all points in our lives. Like different things come up and rear their head, and we have to figure out how to adapt and get over them. Like the struggles I had whenever I was very early on in my career. I look back recently, and they're not that different than the ones that I have now. I think a consistent struggle as far as like my career as a designer is one, knowing your own value, and then
Like 100%.
two being able to work with or partner or you know work with clients that value you. Um, it's not about it's not about like ego or anything, but like you need to be in places that value what you're bringing to the table. And I don't know, like that seems to be a consistent theme throughout a lot of designers careers, and kind of like why people jump around. I feel like you're always looking for like that right fit. But I think for me, my any skipping around that I've done has always been a direct result of um, feeling undervalued. And like not to sound like it's all about like complaining, because it's not. It's just you do your best work when you feel good about things, and when you feel
Yeah.
good about where you are, and you feel good about who you're working with. um, a big struggle in value came early on in my career. Like I'd worked at a couple of agencies, I'd worked in house. um, and I started feeling that longing for doing my own thing. And it was like, okay, how do I make this happen? Like that was a huge struggle to try to figure out, like, am I good enough to go out on my own? Like am I experienced enough? And it really, for me, it just came down to uh I don't know, just going for it. Not saving up 6 or 12 months worth of bills, just being like at a point where it was like, these past experiences have just been not what I'm looking for. They're they're ruining my perception and my enjoyment of the field. I've got to get out because like I don't want to do anything else, but I've got to be in a different scenario than what I'm in. And like it was a leap of faith, and it was really great. It was incredible for me at the time, because like I had like this freedom, whatever life is, whatever game we're playing that is life. Like I felt like I was like up here, and that was awesome. And then I started dealing with those struggles and realizing that, like, oh man, running your own thing isn't
Dude.
isn't just working on the projects that you want to work on when you want to work on them. It's not, it's not avoiding paperwork and like dumb boring stuff like invoicing and uh, proposals and hunting down money, like like it's
Right.
like, oh shit, this has an entire new set of struggles.
How was
And
that self discipline, dude?
how was what?
How was that self discipline when you first transitioned over?
Oh, it took some time, man. Yeah, it definitely did. Like, it's funny. You kind of have to train yourself how to work because you've got like, I don't know. It's also weird too working from home. Like, I think I would advise anybody taking that leap to maybe not start out working from home because that to me was like the biggest shadow was because I would look over here and be like, let me go do these dishes real quick, or like,
Right.
like I didn't do this, I'm gonna go do that. Like you're home, and like I don't feel like it honed me in enough for like being in work mode. So it was really a struggle to you know commit to 8 9 hours like at my desk in the day actually doing work. Or like I would do these, I would get like these little small victories and be like, okay, cool. All right, now I'm gonna watch like a TV show or something. Like it was like very
Right.
very weird. Like I think it comes from just like that freedom of like, like I'm not in an office, I'm not at a desk. My boss or art director or creative director isn't looking over me. Like it's I don't know. It's like whenever your parents leave you home at like whatever age like they first deem appropriate to leave you home by yourself, and you're just like, okay, all right.
Right. That's a good
Yeah,
analogy, though. That's
I'm,
funny.
I'm, I'm not gonna lie. It was very much like that.
Oh, for sure.
It took a while, and then like I got into it, but then like it started rearing its head in like worse ways than I anticipated. Like I think nobody ever talks about the part like the tough parts about going out on your own. Like I feel like we've established some sort of like linear perceived success chart to what it is to be a designer, and it's like go to school, work at a place, go out on your own, make merch, start talking at conferences, write a like it's like all these things that like I
Right.
feel whenever I talk to young designers, like um, I got to talk to a bunch of kids this year because it was way easier to do portfolio reviews via Zoom than in person at different schools and stuff. But like it's funny, like it's funny whatever chemical we've put into the filter of what it is to be a designer has dispersed to like it's shifted people's thinking into what success is. And I think what people see for other designers that have gone that path and been successful is like they only see those successes. They don't see the long hours. They don't see the loss in drive. They don't see the strained relationships with friends and family, and um, there's a lot behind it. Like it's not just like, holy shit, so and so just posted this amazing project on Instagram. I bet their life is incredible. Or like
Right. Exactly.
this person speaking at a conference, like I can't believe that, like it. So like we've somehow like latched on to like a weird expectation for what it is to be successful, and like that was like I lived that life for 5 years, which I I think is a decent amount of time to like get my feet wet in something. Or hell, just submerge my entire
I
body.
was gonna say
Uh,
I don't know about feet wet.
but like I started seeing that stuff, and like by that point, like I'd been in my career for a good while, and like I said, I feel like I ran the spectrum of in-house agencies. I'd white labeled for agencies as a freelancer. I did my own thing. Um, I started my own agency for a second, which is probably an entire other episode's worth of strife and sorrow.
Yeah.
But um, I don't regret any of it though, because it ultimately, it's just like polishing a stone or something. Like it takes a long time to do, and you have to go through all these different layers, and that's kind of what it is to be um at my age right now, like as clear as I can be on like what I want to do. I didn't like I figured out what I didn't like so I could figure out what I do like. And
Right.
that's how I approach projects with clients too. I'm just like, I don't want to just see the stuff that you like. Like I want to get a Pinterest board of your dislikes as well. Like as much information as I can have to like drive this process. That's how I'm going to get like a good outcome for like this design solution. And approaching your career like that is key as well. And like that's kind of what I've done that has led me to this 15 years in, and I hit that pinnacle of doing like your own thing, and then I realized it wasn't for me, and that was like that's probably the biggest struggle I've had to date.
How long ago
Is
was that?
Well, I went back into the working world. Uh, people just listening to the podcast won't see the air quotes. Uh, I went back into the working world 6 months ago, like kind of right at the beginning of COVID. Um, but like I had just really taken stock of everything that I've learned and experienced and accomplished and failed at. Uh, and I was like, this life isn't for me right now. Like if I keep going at this pace, I'm gonna burn out, or my health. Like I already have high blood pressure, like mega stresses. I was like, I don't. This isn't serving me. I've got to do what's best for me. Like I've got to get to a place where I feel valued for with whom I'm working, and that the answer to that came in the form of like you know an incredible opportunity being presented for me. Like I think the fact that I realized all that, like somehow cosmically, like me realizing that and then an opportunity arriving, it just felt like the perfect fit.
Right. Yeah. You kind of put it out there in the universe, right? Like, I mean, honestly, and it just happened.
I think so, man. Like I honestly think so because like the industry that I'm in now and like the company that I work for, like it's by and large the happiest I've ever been creatively, professionally. Um, especially in the middle of like this huge dark cloud that like we're experiencing as a people right now in general. Like the fact that I can work and be like one of the people, like one of the things that people are usually just like, fuck man, I gotta work. Like the fact that like that's like a light and like a positive source, like during like these weird ass times. I think that's just like another testament to like me making the right move. But I think like my big struggle in doing so was, just like the mental goblins and like bullshit. Like, am I a failure? Like
Right.
I spent 5 years. It's like a professional baseball player. Like deciding to move back to his hometown, and well, I'm just gonna open a fitness center or something. Like I don't know. I'm gonna coach little league. It felt like I had done what we were supposed to do as designers, and then like I was like, is this a step backwards?
Right.
And it was like a huge mind fuck that like it kind of kept me up at night. It was a very I would toss and turn about it, have a lot of anxiety about it. Um, but like I once I started realizing that like all of my experiences that I've accumulated and the growth that I've had as a designer in the last 5 years, they'd seen things that I'd accomplished, things that I'd worked on. If it wasn't for that 5 years of like working out, I wouldn't be as strong as I am now.
Hmm.
And like had I tried to make this move 5 years ago from like my last day job to this day job, I would have gone in at a different, like hell, I probably wouldn't even gotten a job, but I probably would have gone in at a much lower level than I am now. So kind of shifting my perspective and like shedding that like, oh, like I'm going backwards, like really kind of eased my mind into feeling proud about what I've accomplished and that it led me to this position with this company. And like once I shifted that focus, man, like I feel like life is so much about focus and perspective. it was, I immediately just felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulder. I was able to be happy about it, which is
Right.
awesome.
Yeah. And props to the company that hired you. For them to acknowledge that what you've done over the last like 5 years on your own was beneficial to them, right? And so because sometimes they look at it and be like, oh, like you just did your own thing for the last 5 years, like so it's cool to understand that they saw value in that because
Yeah,
not everyone
exactly.
does. So props to them for having that attitude and that mindset.
Yeah, yeah. It felt nice, man. It felt like I don't know. It
Yeah.
felt good to have, like I said, at all points in our lives and creative, professional lives, we yearn for that value. Like we want our work to get put up on the fridge. We're weird people, creatives. Um, but yeah, to have somebody see that and like, you know, it I don't know, it meant a lot, and it's been incredible. Like I feel like for me, it's kind of career changing, like as far as like my trajectory, and I'm all about it because I've been jogging down that other road for so long. It just felt like I was on a treadmill. I didn't feel like I was
Yeah, exactly.
anywhere
It's a
personally.
marathon.
Like, and that's like that's just my experience. Like there are some people that do the freelance thing and like start the boutique agency thing, and like it's for them. Like for me, the the cons outweighed the pros, and realizing that it was having these effects on me mentally and physically, to the point of where like at some point I'm on two different blood pressure medicines, and I'm like constantly going to the doctor for like checkups and shit. It's like, dude, like this lifestyle is killing me, literally. um
Right.
so yeah, I mean, your path is your path. Like that's really it, man. Like you can take cues from other people, but like you can't dictate your life, or you can't like feel bad about what you're doing on your path because of what other people are doing on theirs. It's just um took me a long time to realize that.
Right. Yeah. Kind of defining your own success too, right? Like, don't, not comparing yourself to other people or other things in the industry. I think that's really important. Like when you said that earlier, and I think that hits home pretty well, with a lot of people is like they look at what everyone else is doing and want to do the same thing. And if you just sit down and reflect on what you want and what you want to do,
Hmm.
I think you'll be really happy with that, if you strive towards it.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
you're 100% right.
What's some of the advice that you give to the students that you talk to when you're doing portfolio review?
um I've done a lot of them this past spring. Honestly, a lot of the advice that I gave them was kind of what we just talked about,
Gotcha.
because
Okay.
I would, and honestly, you're the first person I'm talking about with all of this stuff. Like I haven't said anything on Instagram or changed any, like, I don't
Oh
know.
wow.
I'm a very
Yeah.
private person in general. I don't typically announce things, like, overall. So the fact that I'm talking about this with you is kind of like, it feels like that feels good too.
I
Um,
think it's
but
fitting.
but a lot of those portfolio reviews were happening right as all this stuff, like all of this change in my life happened too. So I feel like I was able to at least tell them that, like, hey, try things out. And not to get all like motivational poster, but like life's too short to toil away at some place you don't want to be, or some people that you don't want to work with. Like, you get like one shot at this. Like we're not at the age of our parents where like you work at a company for 50 years. And I
Right.
feel like, like whenever I graduated college, that was still kind of like the thinking was like, oh man, like you're going to go work at this place and work there forever. So like I tell young kids, like what the hell are you supposed to know at 22 years old? I didn't know shit at 22. Like I don't know
No.
much else at 38. A little bit more than I did then. So like, a lot of the advice I give them is to, like, feel around, and like get an idea of like what it is you want to do. Like you come out of design school like having all of your regular classes. Like you had a semester in logo design, you had a semester in type, a semester in illustration. Like that's not enough to dictate, like going somewhere and like, like that's my career now. Like you've got to try things out at that age. So like that's one big thing I've told them is to like, explore, find what you're good at, find what your niche is, um, find people that you want to work with and that you're excited to work with, and stay off social media. Stay the fuck off social media.
Yeah,
Because like I feel like at every and like I feel hypocritical in saying that because I engage on social media quite a bit, but I also feel like that bitter old man. It's like never never do this or never do that. But I don't mean stay off of it, but like use it as a tool, but like don't ever let it get to the point of where you're letting things that you're seeing from other people make you feel bad about where you are in your career, like and that's kind of what I mean by that whenever I talk to them about that, like you don't want to be a famous Instagram or dribble designer. Like you want to, like that's not life. That's ones and zeros on platforms that could be gone tomorrow.
yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. Who knows how long that's gonna run for, and then what's next, right?
Right.
Yep.
So and a lot of that stuff can be poison too, like with the whole imposter syndrome and like the comparison traps that you and I have talked about. So yeah, I mean it's just I don't know. I don't know if they listen to any of it. I'd like to think they do, but I also know when you're young you have to make your own mistakes. So hopefully, I don't know. Hopefully they're all on good paths this summer.
Yeah, hopefully so, dude. Well, hopefully you inspired some of them. So, well, dude, before we close out, is there any other things that you wanted to talk about or close anywhere?
Um, Man, I don't know. Like I feel like I ramble a lot, so
No, I
I,
think it was great, dude.
I've probably said everything I would like to. I'm sure I could
Cool.
go on and on about other things, but this was great, man. It was a lot of fun. It was awesome catching up with you too.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of nice to do this. No, we haven't had like any conferences, so it's just
Yeah,
kind of great to meet up and share stories and shit because that's essentially what we do at conferences. So it's kind
yeah,
of cool.
absolutely.
Well, if anyone that's watching or listening, how would they be able to connect with you on like social
Um,
media or anything like that? Even though you said to stay off social media.
yeah, I know. Come across
Oh,
as a hypocrite right now. Yeah, I guess like that. The great thing about social media is that it's an immediately updated portfolio of your work. So like that is to me like its greatest benefit. Because like I know if I'm ever redoing my site or even adding a project to it, I just like think and think and think, and it never happens. But on social media, just like new project, new sneak peek, or like whatever. So if you want to see my most up to date work, or hit me up with a DM question about anything, you can find me on Instagram at Stay Gray Ponyboy. Um, if you want to see more in-depth case studies, you can go to my website, which is staygrayponyboy.com. And then you can also follow along with us on Instagram at cropcons.com. And once we figure out where that ship is going, we will have some updates soon. But I promise once we do get that going again, it's a ton of fun. So I encourage you to come check them out sometime. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. Well, I look forward to seeing you at the next one when that happens, man. So, and
Bye.
yeah, hopefully hearing the EP when you get it out.
Yeah, I'll keep you posted for sure.
Definitely, dude. Well, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate your time a lot, dude. It was really great, and hopefully see you soon.
Yeah, sounds good, Matt. Have a good one, buddy.
Thanks, Matt. Later.
Later.